Well, let's all get started. If you all want to take a seat, and we'll get started here. We got like this side of the room, and then we've got Omar holding court over there. Jamara and Omar holding court. We got some more people coming in. Thank you. We like to start on time because, you know, when you get here on time, it should start on time, right? So, thank you all for coming. Welcome to Parish High School, Parish Community High School. This is the last of our community meetings. We were at Manatee High last night, and we were at Braden River on Monday night. So we're doing our tour, and so this is the last of the community meetings, but certainly is not the last time of public comment, right? So public comment just essentially started, right? We're taking public comment all the way through to August 15th. And really I'm going to say the best and really the only way we're taking public comment is through the website, through our public input button, right? Because if we handed out index cards or, you know, asked you to email, it would be all over the place. So the system is set up where if you go to the website, you go to manateeschools.net/rezoning process, and that's where all the maps and all the options are. You'll see that public input button, and that's really, and you can put in as many comments as you want, and you can pick what area, school, and all. I think I got to stand in the center if I remember parish. My theater days. But so officially welcome. I'm Kevin Chapman. I'm the interim superintendent. I've got a lot of my colleagues here out in the room, and we'll talk about it. We've got about a 15-minute slide presentation. We'll try to take questions because I know you may have specific questions. But what we've done is we've set up 3 zones. I shouldn't use zones, right? 3 areas of, well, I can't even use areas. 3 sections of the auditorium. And you all are going to really want to do the north section, which is over here with Omar and Kathia. That's really this area of town, okay? Then you've got high schools back there. And then you have the east, what we call East County over there. And what we got is all of our team leaders and experts at each station. And that's really where you can ask your questions about streets and zones and all that stuff, and really dig deep, because we've got the map up on the screen where we can zero in on stuff. We've got paper maps and the teams that did these areas. So that's really where the good questions should come, but we'll try to answer some general questions after this. But we're also joined by your school board member, Heather Felton, who's back there. Thank you, Ms. Felton, for being here. So let's get started. Let's see. You know, it's one of those things where it works until it doesn't work. There we go. So let's go through where we are in the process. This started on Valentine's Day, no coincidence, where the superintendent went to the board and said, we've got to do something here. And so the board said, okay, go out and do something. So we commenced the rezoning process. We were here in March to talk to you about the process and how this would be. And as promised, we said we'd be back with options. And so here we are. We spent from March to June, we split up into teams, and we developed what you've seen on the website. A lot of maps, a lot of, you know, pros and cons and all kinds of things. So we've tried our best to really dig deep. On June 10th is when we did our workshop presentation to the board to kind of launch these public meetings. And like I said, this goes all the way to August 15th. So lots of time to keep adding in your public comment. We'll take some time from then until October to really pick and really figure out and then what we'll do is Joe and I, did we just make an executive decision, Joe? I think we just made an executive decision that we'll go on the road with the advertise. What we have to do is we've got to go to the board and say, board, here are the options. The board says, okay, advertise those options, right? Which means that then they'll be advertised for 30 days of more public comment. And what we'll do is, and we'll present the final what it will be, if you will. Take 30 days, go on the road, take more comment, and then the board, probably in that early November, late October, will make the final decision. And then that sets up for January's choice window, right? So that way, if in the end you don't like the decision, you have a chance in the choice window to make an option, like like you can now as a family, and we'll figure out that process. Jamara Clark is director of that choice department, so he's here. He takes gift cards or anything. Bribe? No, I'm kidding. It's illegal. We don't have any lawyers here, do we? But Jamara's a good guy to know, so that way you know the process. So we went through this back in March, but we're going to go through it again. So 1 through 5, add to 6. So number 1, enrollment in operated schools continues to climb despite increasing school choice options. So you all have many options, right? Scholarships and charter schools and all kinds of stuff. So even with all those options, enrollment in our schools, in our district-operated schools, continues to climb. Number 2, there are too many district-operated schools classified as overcapacity, near capacity, or nearing, and all those schools are spread out through the school district. So it's not just, you'd think, okay, well, it's just the schools in Parrish or maybe some schools in Lakewood Ranch. We've got issues all over the county. Number 3, school choice options are insufficient to remedy the capacity concerns due to traffic congestion and transportation limits. That one's kind of obvious, but I'll quickly explain it. As we all know, it's almost impossible to go on SR 70 from one side of town to the other, or 64. Even just getting on I-75 tonight will probably take a long time. And natural barriers, right? Rivers and all kinds of natural barriers. We cannot possibly bus kids from one side of town to the other to maybe schools that have a little capacity. It would just be virtually impossible. Your children would be on buses for hours if we were trying to do it through those means. Number 4, future residential housing growth. So sure, where we are now may be a little different than maybe 2 years ago. We continue to look at all the reservations in the systems. The county government splits us in 4 service areas, and that's how we track what the county calls reservations, which is essentially developers, every time they build a house, called a reservation. So we track that and we see how many houses are going up, how many houses are being built, what land's being purchased. Obviously, there was a change in county commissioner government. They have their views now. We'll see where it all ends up. But for the most part, people are still coming and people and homes are still being built. And then number 5, because of the fact that we're opening up Lake Manatee, K-8 here this August, we're opening up Harvey. We have our Harvey principal here. Harvey as a K-8 in August. Those 2 new schools will open up this year. We've got 2 elementary schools opening up next August. So we have the named school, Rye Ranch Elementary, and then we have the unnamed school in the Artisan Lakes area, which will open up next August as well. And then potentially an 8th high school over on rangeland near Premier Sports. So with all those schools and where they are and considering what the effect they'd have, you almost have to rezone. So if you add up 1 through 5, you get to 6, which is essentially we have to rezone the entire county. The goal is to do this once and do it that hopefully lasts till your children are in Harvard and Yale and they're doctors and lawyers, right? That it will be the next set of parents in here 15 years from now who we may have to rezone. But hopefully this sticks and lasts. So that's the goal. And we've got, we have purchased other land around the county. They're building all the way up to Hillsborough, right? If you take North River Ranch, that whole North River Ranch is going all the way up to Hillsborough. So we've got some land near Hillsborough. We have some land to the left of that, all the way if you hit the water. We've got land out by the racetrack. So we've got land if we need to continue to build. We hope maybe not to do that because it's your tax dollars that build these schools, but we're prepared if more growth is coming. We are following strict policy, our policy 5120. We're not kind of making this up as we go. Maybe we're making these maps up as we go. We're using the best data as we can, but we're certainly not making policy up as it goes. So we're following strict policy, and where we are in 5120.02 is at this point, which is, we did the public meetings in the spring, we then developed the maps, and now here we are with at least 3 options. As you know, there's many more than that, but at least 3 options to present to you all and get the input. And we used 1 through 9, extent practicable, to build all these options that you're seeing on the website. Again, just another point where we've done this. And then here's exemptions. We've talked about them in the spring. These are the exemptions that are in policy. Number 1 essentially means that you can, at your school currently, if your child will be at the highest grade of that school in August of 26 or August of 27. So 5th grade, you're staying. I should just give up. And then number two is if that student has a sibling, they can stay at the school too. But once that 5th grader graduates to 6th grade, that sibling's got to go now to the new zone school. So those are the exemptions that are in policy right now. So that's policy. Oh, went the wrong way. That's policy. Now, you probably all have explored this, but Joe Rinaldi, our Deputy Superintendent of Operations, who really kind of was the mastermind behind all of this, is going to just run you through what's on the website and why it's on there and how it's organized. And I know he'll say, but I'll reiterate again that public comment really needs to go through the website. It's our only way to track it, right? It's a Let's Talk system, and when you say you put in something about the North area and it's something about Harvey, it will flow right to that team, right? So it's all in these buckets behind an IT system. So that's our best way of organizing as we then spend we're looking at it now, but as we spend the summer and September looking at it all. But when Joe's done here, we'll try to take a few questions because you may have some thoughts or something. Again, we'll split up into these 3 groups to really dig deep. Oh, yeah. I always thought this was the good zone. So we got to go over here.
Okay, as Mr. Chapman was saying, with the Let's Talk, it's very helpful if you're talking about a specific road, identify that road. If you're talking about a specific subdivision, please identify that subdivision, because that allows us, as we're going through and doing the triage on the comments, we're able to pull them out and identify the specific items that are going on. And Mr. Chapman, you ran off with a clicker, did you? Okay, so on the 10th, we went live with our website. And right now, if you go on to our main web page for the district, there is a scrolling item on there that pertains to the rezoning. If you double click on that, then you'll come up to what is the rezoning main landing page is what we call it. And there are 4 specific areas of this landing page. The 3 blue buttons right in the middle there, the first one is the public input, and I'll show you what that looks like. So when you go into the public input, it will ask you which area you're talking about. It gives you about 250 characters to provide your input, and as I was saying, if you could identify specific roads, specific subdivisions, it will help us out. In addition to that, there are about 2 or 3 other locations for public input on the website. Make sure that if you double click, you get to this actual one. We just kind of cleaned it up this afternoon because there are a couple wildcat rezoning buttons out there, but everything now should actually get us right to the web, the actual comments. The center section is going back to the school locator map. And you may all be familiar with that. We've used that for years. If you put your address in, it will identify which schools you're zoned to. So with this option, if you put your address in and you click option 1, it will tell you with option 1 the elementary, the middle, and the high school that you're actually zoned to. Right now, we're working through what they call the geocoding on that, but our vendor thinks that they'll probably be ready in about a week, week and a half in order to do that. Kind of a added element that they said, hey, do this as well, so if people are having difficulty with the specific maps, they'll be able to put their address in. So that's coming. And on the right-hand side is what we call our general information rezoning. That includes all of the slide decks from the February 14th presentation we did to the board, from the first group of public meetings that we did in March. These public meetings, and I'm anticipating that probably this video will be up there too. So it's kind of a general information section, and that's the third button over. The fourth area, actually in the middle there, is kind of the meat of this website. We have elementary, middle, and high school. And with elementary and middle, we divided it up into 3 zones. We had multiple teams looking at it, and they developed 3 options for each of the zones. So you can see you can pick it, and it'll come down as a drop-down menu, and you can identify the zone, and then you can identify the options. I'll take you through like the high school options right now. So as you open them up, it'll look something like this. On the far right is the high school, and then this is what the high school section will look like. So under the high school section, you'll have 3 options to look at. And internal of option 1, you'll have a simplified map, which I'll show you. You'll have a satellite map, which gives you some detail, and you can maybe find your street. I don't know if you're going to be able to find your home because it's still a satellite map. There'll be capacity charts where we identify what we estimate to be the enrollment with that option, and then the advantages and considerations or the pros and cons for those 9 items that Mr. Chapman showed a second ago. So the general simplified map looks like this, and one of the things we did was we overlaid the existing boundaries with the new boundaries. So as you can see, magenta line that goes through the new high school AAA is the old boundary for Lakewood Ranch. So you'll be able to look at the simplified and see exactly where there was a geographic area added, geographic area taken away in regards to the specific zones that were developed. This is what the aerial map will look like, and what we found, it's kind of relative to the device that you're using. We found that a lot of laptops can't zoom in and out, or it's difficult, but iPhones and iPads and those type of devices, it's relatively easy to go in and to go out on the satellite map as well. And then this is what a typical capacity chart looks like. The blue section in the middle is what we project the enrollment will be if that option is utilized. On the far right-hand side, it states near capacity, over capacity, below capacity as to what type of capacity we'll have there. And then the final section is our advantages and considerations. We take a look at a lot of the transportation issues as well as issues of how do we cross the river? Is the full zone on the one side of the river, one side of 75? So we provide those type of narratives as to the type of things that the teams were looking at as they went through the development of the maps. And at this point, we are complete, but this is the QR code. If you want to actually scan it right now, you can actually start to input information, but I think I'll kick it over to Mr. Chapman and we'll take any general questions.
Yeah. Here. Omar's the best at the mic.
Thank you. I just have a question on the dates, because I saw in one of the slides the difference between elementary and middle school versus high school implementation.
Right, so the elementary and middle are 26, 27. The high school, the school board has not even approved construction at this point right now. If we do get approval sometime this summer, we anticipate that being a 27, 28 opening.
So then the kids, any implementation plan for the different zones for high school would be in 27?
27, 28, yep.
I'm sorry.
With the thought
kid,
that
it changes with my kid, will be like that senior, so that's why I'm asking.
And the thought is that we'll be opening the new high school with 9th and 10th and then grow into that high school as well. So there's further complications there.
Yeah, let me just explain the 8th high school a little bit. Coming over to you, but just because I'm hoping the mic works over here. But so we have, Willie, you all, because you're taxpayers, we have 100 acres that is over by Rangeland, by the new library, by Premier Sports. It's where where the county dumped all of the debris from the hurricanes. It was like this huge mountain of trees and branches and all that, if you can kind of think of that space. The school board has to make a decision pretty much by the end of August on that 8th high school, because shovels got to get in the ground in order to get that thing going and ready by August of 27. We're actually standing in the building, the very building that will be on that property. The idea is to save money. We're using the Parish Community High School design, and we're putting it in that space, because otherwise you have to, Joe is a very renowned architect, so hopefully he doesn't take offense, but architects make a lot of money by redesigning things. We save money by just, taking it off the shelf and saying, well, it worked here, well, let's make it work there. So essentially, think of this beautiful campus on that 100 acres. That building, if we build it the way this campus looks like, minus two academic buildings, so we'll only build one academic building. That will hold 1,200 students. Those two academic buildings, the pads will be there, all the plumbing and all that stuff, and we can build those over time like we just did here. We just finished the building here. So that campus, minus two academic buildings, 1,200 kids, costs $140 million, right? So that's your tax dollars. We got to go to the market. Obviously, there's not one bank who isn't going to take that loan, but $140 million that we got to pay over time. So the board is considering all the factors, right, that we all know, right? That means we got to make sure more people are coming, houses are going to be bought, the economy, all those factors we got to figure out. The board does, Heather. So by the end of August. What we're kind of thinking now is that, because there's some hesitancy to the cost of that. Obviously, we have a debt service right now of, what is our debt service? Probably 600, whatever it is. But the debt service, by law, you have to, have a percentage of, you can't, just like our own household budgets. And it wouldn't break that, but it's a lot, 140 million. So one idea is to potentially see what it would be like if we kept 7 high schools and where do you put all those people who are, probably in that Lake Manatee area, and where do they go? Braden River, Lakewood Ranch, how do you do that? What that would look like. So we got to do that. Two, if we build the school, can we build it for less, right? So if we maybe didn't do athletic fields, right? And maybe over time they're built, but maybe there's no sports to begin with, at least the big sports, soccer, baseball, softball, football. Maybe there's not this auditorium. I think this auditorium was 15, 20 million to build this building, right? So maybe that's built over time. So essentially, if you got the cost down to maybe 100 million, 110 million, a lot of money, less than 140, and we did something that isn't just building a high school. Maybe it's a collegiate school, right? Maybe you're going there, and after 4 years, you get not only your diploma, but an AA degree, similar to like the SCF collegiate school, right? But this would be a district-operated collegiate school where you go get your AA degree. And if if we look at the numbers, we think that would mean that parents and students would have 8 high school choices to make, and essentially have capacity at all 8 high schools, where essentially if you really wanted to go to Lakewood Ranch, Parish, Manatee High, you can get in, because we'll have plenty of seats. Like, that's never happened in Manatee County before, right? So that'd be a great option. So if you wanted to, you wanted to be, the arts, probably Braden River. If you wanted to play football, maybe Manatee High. If you wanted to get your AA degree, you come to the new school. If you wanted to do cheerleading at Lakewood Ranch, IB at Southeast to get into University of Florida, or you want to do ACE at Palmetto High School, you'd have those options. Now, obviously, you got to drive, but that has not happened in Manatee County. That'd be a true choice district for the first time. So those are the we're going to provide them with all the data possible. We're going to have we're going to have a massive workshop on that on July 29th, it looks like, to really run through the data. So we're going to show the board where we're at with, home sales. We're going to check in with, Faulkner Farms. We're going to check in with SMR. We're going to check in with Neal Communities. We're going to say, how's it going? How are the home sales? What are you hearing? What's going on? We're going to have Rachel Sellers, our finance deputy, check in to see what the financing would be on the different costs, weigh all of that, look at the idea of a collegiate school or something else, and then the board's arm to make a decision. So anyway, I just wanted to give you all that in full transparency, because that's what we're trying to do in this process, is communicate and be as transparent as possible as we go through this, because obviously it impacts all of you and your families. Are there any other kind of general questions before we break up? Yes, ma'am.
Well, that sounds loud. We live in the Isles at Bayview community, and in option 1, we are zoned in to stay at Harvey for the lower campus, it seems. I know that's only option 1, that's not set in stone. In the chance that we are not zoned in, rather than pulling our kids out of where they have been, would it be considered to grandfather currently enrolled students to remain at Harvey?
Yeah, those are, some of the decisions we have to make is, there are parents, there are families who have been, and this, I know, there's a couple answers. So there are families who have for a few years now choice to a school, right? So like there's families who maybe they're in 2nd grade at McNeil, right? They for a few to McNeil, and now, I mean, obviously that's not their own school. Can they stay at McNeil? So we have to make that decision of, if you're already choicing to a school, do you get to stay in that school so we don't disrupt your learning? If your question is if that was your zone school. Right. Right. And are you out to Artisan Lakes? Yeah, I understand. So there's the hardest answer to give you. The hardest answer to give.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And we hear you loud and clear. And I think I've gotten to know quite a few um, very well over the last few months from the community nights. And I think it holds true that we value this feedback. And we really want to prioritize these families, right? Mr. Chapman always says that, we to keep these families together while also balancing the district and balancing enrollment. I think we can do all of those things at once. I think starting by putting 3 great schools in that area helps, but we hear that you want to remain at Harvey. If through rezoning that did take place, we're not saying that it would, you'd be rezoned, but there are still additional options that you'd be able to take. We would provide priority status to anybody who was already there, and there could be an out-of-zone process. Move that wants to remain, which is one of the options right now, and if availability permits, then we will be able to entertain that. So, there are several options there, but ultimately we want to make sure we're keeping these families together, and we know how you guys feel about Harvey, while also balancing all the people who are moving in, which is not easy, right? So the line has to be cut somewhere, but we think we can be flexible and understanding while making those hard decisions.
I'm gonna, and then I'll come back.
I guess just to piggyback on what you were saying, when we had purchased our home, we were zoned for Lakewood Ranch High School. And then when Parish Community opened up, then they switched. And so we have an upcoming 9th grader. And so now, because we missed that school choice opportunity in January, we would have, because it looks like now our zone is Lakewood Ranch for all 3. So we could have possibly just school choiced him so we didn't have to bounce him around for his, his last. So I guess that's a big concern of ours, because high school, we want him to get the most and take advantage of what it offers. And so now he's going to be bouncing back and forth.
I'm going to get to your question. I'll just say it directly. We need your business. I need you to stay in our schools, right? It's a competitive landscape now. So you all have options. So I need you to stay. I'm going to do everything possible to keep you in our schools. I need everybody who's having kids to come into our VPK if you can get in. We're trying to build as much as we can, but I need you for those 13, 14 years because I got to sustain a school system. And you've seen it around the state, right? We just saw our friends in Sarasota just announced a complete hiring freeze. They're cutting staff. They are no more contracts and no travel. And that's Sarasota. Like, they are known to be a very well-funded school district because they're losing enrollment, and the state's giving us less money. But the landscape has completely changed in this state. So it's as superintendent, I got to look at this. I mean, I love all your kids, but I got to look at it as a business now. And I've got 6,000 employees. I got 51 schools, that I've got to operate, and I want them. We all do want them at the highest quality possible, and we have to educate all, where privates and charters and other schools can just pick and choose. I want to educate everybody, but it's an uneven playing field. So I'm playing by a different set of rules. But what I can do is provide the best. Think of a store, think of anything. I think we have the best product. Our testing data, I think, shows that we can pretty much outperform anybody. But so I need you to stay. So I'm going to try very hard, knowing the economic and financial decision you made in buying your home, to make as less of an impact to your families as possible. But then there's the caveats, right? I've got to draw lines at some point. The board's got to make a decision at some point. Jamar is going to do the best he can through hardship, through out of zone, to try to, keep your learning as disruptive as possible. But what I can tell you, and I know, Harvey's Harvey, but I can tell you that all these new schools we're building are going to be A schools. They are going to be not only brand new schools, but they're all going to be A schools. They're going to be filled with all the staff that are in a lot of our schools, right? Because as the students move, we got to move the staff with them. They're going to be run by all the great principals. So I know it's hard, but they're all going to be great schools, and we'll get through this. But anyway, let me get to your question. I'm scared of your notebook, but
so I guess I have two questions, kind of.
yes, you're allowed. It's okay.
Okay, thanks. The first one, for priority status, are you saying for like school choice, if you're currently at Harvey, you would then have a priority status if you were to be rezoned? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think, again, we've got to quickly come up with these rules. But yes, if you're a current Harvey family, second grade, third grade? Going into first grade and soon to be kindergarten. Okay, first and kindergarten. And you're being rezoned to in all of the options?
No, mine's the first one.
So in the first one, you stay at Harvey. Okay, well, I know what your public comment, it probably is. But right. So now you're going to Artisan, you're going to go to Artisan Lakes and the other options? Okay, because you're in the same neighborhood. Okay, so yeah, so you would put in, we'll figure it out, but you would, and you haven't done this yet, but it's still not a guarantee, but, right? But, because remember, we have to create that Artisan Lake zone. So my guess is you're probably down Wallow a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. Right where the water thing is all coming in? Yeah. Yeah, so well, that's probably why on option one you stay. Yeah. 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 I made an inappropriate joke once at a meeting. I said we have to stop building Catholic churches. so that we can stop enrollment in Manatee County. But anyway, so I'm Catholic. Was there another general question? Yeah.
One more question.
Oh, yeah, she had a second. You're right. You're right. That's the rule.
So for, say, all of these things and we end up not at Harvey, when will a principal be announced for the new school? When will all of that be determined so I can decide, do I have to sell my house and move to stay at Harvey? Or am I gonna suck it up and just?
It's a great question.
You say that they're all gonna be A schools, but you have to say that.
Yeah, they will be. You know why? But you know why they're an A school? Because of your kids. That's why. I mean, that's why it's going to be an A school. But we'll and Derek Jensen back there, he's hiding, but he's our deputy of instruction. So once he makes the decision, and I won't be around, but the new superintendent will make a decision by later this fall, in time, who the new principal will be at Artisan Lakes. So similar to what we did with Dr. Rio, she was already the principal of Harvey, but we essentially said Dr. Rio will be now the executive principal of this middle school, right? And we said Todd Richardson will be the executive principal of Lake Manatee. And like for Todd, he left Gullet and worked in our Lakewood Ranch office and has been trying to build that year now. So by Thanksgiving, you'll know the principal at Artisan Lakes. And it will be a very seasoned principal, right? We're not going to put a new guy in there like me or something. We're going to have a seasoned principal there who will have a track record of success. All right? I think there was a question here. Oh, let's go on that side, Omar.
So in regards to the growth and keeping up with it, 10 years ago, the county already knew that we were getting between 210 and 250,000 single-family homes on Moccasin Wallow alone. So Harvey probably could have been deemed as not being big enough, considering that amount of growth and in the amount of time that they were looking to do it. So how are you, as the district, not you personally, going to better keep up with that kind of information?
Yeah, good question. And actually, the Harvey K. North River Ranch campus was essentially that land and all built to relieve Buffalo Creek. It's to relieve essentially Harvey, or to grow Harvey. And none of us, not to blame who was behind me, but none of us were here those decisions 10 years ago. But we're doing our best to get it right this time. Joe has under him a few people who have very fancy algorithms who figure this out. But we are tracking it to those slides in the spring where we tracked all the little homes being built. But and like I said, we've got the land to alleviate any more future